Welcome! This is just a quick explanation after my Jugger rules overview video, because some topics turn out to be more controversial than you would ever have thought. In fact, this was just an annotation and I didn't even think that this could be controversial in any way. But it turned out that many asked, why would you recommend that? And why do you think that this is important? We do it exactly the other way around. What am I speaking of? I'm speaking of storing the spars on the tips and not on the pommel, as I've recommended in the video at the end. Of course, most recommendable is storing spars lying down, not in a jumble, because then they get damaged, the padding, but lying one beneath the other. But if you have to store them upright, then I would recommend very much to store them standing on the tip. Why that? Why on the tip and not on the pommel? Well, the tip, if well made, is very broad. It's soft mattress foam, something like that. And in my case, I always do cuffs around the tips, and I recommend that highly to everyone to attach cuffs. Those cuffs don't have to be too massive, but they are strengthening, enforcing the tip and the mattress foam, as you can see in this cutout. They are enforcing the mattress foam here around, and they are hindering it from bending. They are strengthening it also against pushes, that they are not pushed in too far and that you don't come close to the core rod, which sticks in your tube insulation. As said, it does not have to be as massive as here with this massive cuff. A slim one is absolutely enough. But if you compare it with an almost uncuffed spar, this could be uncuffed as well, then we have this here. And check the spars on tournaments, you will see many that look exactly like this. One thing is, it's soft, it compresses nicely, but it bends a lot. And of course, if you put one of those spars on the tip somewhere and store them for a longer time, then you have this material memory problem that it bends, it stays bent, and the safety aspect, which is imperative for the tip, does not exist as much anymore. So it decreases. So I wouldn't recommend to make such points anyway. I would always recommend to use cuffs, and that's what I recommend my players all the time as well. And if you do cuffs, you shouldn't have a problem with letting them standing upright on the tip if you need to have them standing and cannot let them lie down. With the pommel, it looks quite massive, so why not storing it on the pommel? Well, most pommels are not as massive as here. Many pommels are just very slim, like this one, and this is absolutely sufficient. It's soft. It is a good protection if you let go of your spar's grip and someone is running after you and you hit the person accidentally, then it's soft here, so the danger is avoided. But as said, it's slim, and if you put that down on the ground and let it rest here for a longer time, especially with a non-lightweight spar, so with normal weight spars, then it might happen that this starts to bend, and now the material memory kicks in, the band part stays bent, and at some point it might go off. Especially since usually when you're fighting, you are gripping right behind at the pommel here, so you already have quite a lot of stress here in the pommel area, with both hands even, to thrust and to have a longer reach there. So storing on the pommel, I think, is not a good idea. It might be a good idea if you have an ultra lightweight spar, as said, which doesn't have too much weight, which has a long soft tip that might actually bend, and which has a massive pommel that can't bend that easily. There it might be absolutely okay. So you're the judge of your spars. And of course, always, whether you're storing them on the tip, on the pommel, or lying down, always check your spars, and when you see that the tip goes off, please repair it. This is a safety aspect. If you see that pommel goes off, please repair it. This is a safety aspect and not to be toyed with. So I'm not a friend of those ultra slim pommels anyway, where you have just some padding here at the end of the core rod and maybe some tape around, and that's it. I do like it much more to have more massive pommels, or if they are slim, even so very robust pommels like this one. This is a special pommel which is soft but robust as well, so a special construction, so to speak. But as said, this is also a heavy spar. So judge for yourself which you think is best. I would advocate putting your spars on the tips and making tips that actually can hold this sort of stress. And don't forget, it's not that much stress, especially the new spars are not that heavy, so only if you really have very soft tips, then you might run into trouble when you store them for a longer time. I have stored this spar, for example, for years standing on the tip because we didn't have more space. I couldn't put it laying down. As many other spars that I have used are also stored on the tips. I never encountered problems. And when I saw that the tip becomes strangely weird, then I replaced it. So choose for yourself. I will stick to my recommendation still, and I would recommend to make cuffs around your tips and build proper pommels. Aside from that, I don't think that this is that much relevant because damage to the spars might actually not be as dramatic as theory often sort of implies. When you think about, oh, it's the tip, it's dangerous, people get it in the face, it must be super safe. It must be, it has to be, but it won't take that much damage. I'm quite sure about that if you do it right. Thank you very much for listening. That was the quick explanation of storing spars on tips. I hope that you're satisfied, but as always, I could be wrong and there are other approaches around, so welcome to try for yourself, to have a look and to play Jugger. See you around on the field.